So if you've been covering the pop cultural beat, you'd have to say it's been like a wasteland. Some few gems here and there. I'd even include Deadpool Wolverine. I know it's very popular to hate the MCU. And having seen Ironheart, yeah, that thing was pretty bloody bad. However, I will have to see the final episode just to be sure. But yeah, my tentative verdict is Ironheart is jaw-droppingly below average. It is not very good. But Deadpool Wolverine was a very fun, nice little thrill ride. That opening is extremely energetic, and they do some insane, extreme things in that movie. Again, most people know the cameos, but I'm not going to spoil it for the rare people who have not seen it. It is quite an insane film. But now let's jump to another bit of perhaps good news on the pop cultural front that Judge Dredd may be returning. So let me give the very short story, and this thing is so weird. So on the surface, you might think, "Oh, this is like The Punisher," but no, Judge Dredd has always been a bit of a satire, but tongue in cheek. Now that said, Judge Dredd is somewhat more serious, right? So it's sort of in this Batman vector, but with a little bit more comedy, right? So it's set in a very dystopian future where the judges investigate cases and are willing to kill. And Judge Dredd is a very legendary lawman. And I had the fortune or misfortune to see, yes, that classic 1990s Sylvester Stallone version, which I think is overhated. I actually do think it's fairly decent, interesting film. However, whatever praise I can give Judge Dredd in retrospect, it's not a Judge Dredd film. It is taking so many liberties with the comic book source. It's kind of like, what was the point of calling it Judge Dredd? I mean, Judge Dredd, I've only read a few of the comics. It's popular enough, but it's not Superman. It's not Batman. It's not super iconic in that way. It has its audience, which I respect, but it's not super massive. So that's been the dilemma with Judge Dredd. He's not popular enough for Hollywood care to spend gazillions of dollars like Superman to bring him back 5 times. However, there probably was a very decent film with Carl Urban. I want to catch up with that one. But even that film, which received a lot of praise, no one's saying it's like, wow, it's this great underrated classic that totally reshaped cinema. So it's just a puzzle. We have a great character. We have a loyal fan audience. But decade after decade rolls around. It's like, where's Judge Dredd? It's like, yeah, we don't know. But now, finally, I'm going to give John Campea the credit with breaking the news. And wait for it. I'm like, oh my God.
And while I would totally understand why a lot of people would ask, why not Carl Urban? Why not have Carl Urban in it? The Carl Urban movie was awesome. And you're right. The Carl Urban Dredd movie was bloody fantastic. But you want to know what else is true of that? Nobody went to go see it. I'm not saying only a little bit of people went to go see it. I mean, nobody went to go see that amazing Carl Urban Dredd movie. You want to know how much money that Carl Urban Dredd movie made? A movie I love. Not opening day, not opening weekend, not domestically, worldwide. The worldwide box office total for that Dredd movie was $41 million.
That's what I love about John Campea. He's gotten so lazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. 41 million sounds devastating, but for that film, it's actually pretty decent. The film was made for less than $50 million, but the fact remains that is not profitable, right? Good or bad, like it or not, guys, if a film makes $1 bazillion, if it makes a billion, you're going to get a sequel, right? We're going to get more Wolverine and Deadpool. No doubt about that. We're going to be getting more Wolverine, more Deadpool, but Judge Dredd is not in that territory. I don't know why. I love the character. There's enough with that character to make that character a $1 billion hit. They have not cracked the formula. And now we got Taika. Oh boy. And again, just not to be contrarian, I agree with John Campea. This is a very good filmmaker. I like Taika. I have no issue with Taika, but his output is really erratic. Like the Jojo Rabbit film, very good film. Very interesting look at fascism. Commentary on modern politics. Very interesting performance by ScarJo. But then again, his Thor films are very erratic. And to be fair to him, it's not just his fault. Like, I actually gave Love and Thunder a fairly positive review. I think it was being a little too nice. It's not his fault, but the people who did that script, yeah, they're doing I Know What You Did Last Summer. and that's getting terrible reviews. So, in terms of Match Made in Heaven, Taika has worked with some fairly weak screenwriters, and you could say, well, he did a better job given the script he had, but I am very torn. So, even though his films do have a lot of bombastic energy, he does know how to direct actors pretty well, and he makes some pretty intriguing, risky decisions. I'm not a big fan of his films. Really, JoJo is the exception. For the most part, I don't like looking at his filmography. I'm just not a big fan of Ragnarok. I think it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. I do think Love and Thunder was an improvement, but it's still just what it is. It's a very Taika film, and if you like his brand of comedy and his brand of goofiness, it will work for you. But if you can't vibe with it, yeah, you're gonna be fresh out of luck. So, what do I foresee? I do foresee a very MCU style Dredd. Let's bring that one out and sell it to the kids. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And it's got the Rogue Nation writer. Well, Rogue Nation was better than the last two Mission Impossibles. But Rogue Nation, oh boy. Yeah, the Mission Impossibles too. Yeah, they have very chaotic quality. I know a lot of people love to hate Mission Impossible 2, but I don't know. Compared to the modern Mission Impossible, those first two films are really, really strong. They're really, really strong. They're radically different, but they have style to burn. So, yeah, as a Judge Dredd fan, not a hardcore fan. Only read the comics a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna be at this point very skeptical, but we're very early. This might not happen. They're announcing things get announced, never get done. But I'm not gonna be sad if this doesn't happen. That said, maybe if the concept art, maybe if the basic ideas are good ideas, it could work. I do think Taika's very talented, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. This is like a real gamble. It's a real gamble.
Guy, you're looking at relaunching it. Now, look, and if it does relaunch, it is much in part due to that Carl Urban Dredd movie. Because that, here's the reality, and I don't mean to be mean, but before Carl Urban's Dredd came out, if you suggested a Judge Dredd, people would just snicker because we don't think of that Sylvester Stallone one. And I know that movie has its fans who are rain on anybody's parade, but that was not a great movie. Carl Urban's Dredd comes along, totally revitalizes it, right? And now people think, well, maybe I'll go see a Judge Dredd movie.
Well, I'm not going to make the case for Judge Dredd here, the Stallone version, because they did things that were really outrageous and not necessary in that film. So fell into some tropes I thought were like, eh. But looking back on it, I'm like, no, this was actually a very decent film. It is, I think, not unironically a good film. It's actually kind of been dismissed a little bit too preemptively. Listen, I usually like Siskel and Ebert, but they really did not understand how to judge the film. And I get it. Like, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert are not comic book guys. They just don't care about that art form. That said, the adaptation was fine, but again, they just took it in a direction too far in a really loopy, goofy, silly direction where this material is silly and comedic, but it has to be done very carefully. But there are things about that 90s film which are mind-blowing, especially the costumes. I'm like, wow, those costumes are not just accurate, they look spectacular. So I think it's people just not really watching the film and actually watching the film as opposed to just, oh, we all agree Judge Dredd is the worst film of the 1990s. No, believe me, I grew up in the 1990s. The 1990s had way worse films than Judge Dredd. If anything, it is quite a banger, especially compared to Steel. Like, ooh, remember that one? The Shaq O'Neal? Ooh, whoa, yeah. Yeah, so talk about, quote, really bad comic book films. Judge Dredd is sort of in the middle. I'm gonna be honest. But that said, yeah, it didn't make money. Like, I don't dislike Carl Urban. I think he was very good in The Boys, but he's not a marquee superstar. He's not a movie star. He's not Keanu Reeves. It's not like Keanu Reeves can be in smaller films. They don't make money. But then he put him in a John Wick or a Matrix film, it'll make gazillions of dollars. So you can have an actor, their box office is erratic, but they are a solid star. Not everything they do is golden. Not everything they do will be a massive hit, but they have a consistency. And Carl Urban may have a dedicated, like, fanatic audience like Keanu Reeves, but they don't show up to theaters. He does seem beloved by a very small part of the quote fan community, but it's not at the John Wick level. It's not at the Keanu level, good or bad. So Yeah, I mean, would it work with someone like Keanu or a bigger star? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's very risky either way. But again, there is a possibility. It's small. There is a possibility we could be getting great Judge Dredd again. So I don't know. I don't know. But people in the comment section saying preemptively, "Oh, it's not good. He's too comedic." Judge Dredd is a funny comic book. It is not serious in that way. But that said, you got to be very careful with the tone. That's the problem with the 1990s film is they went too far down goofy, and then the Carl Urban film went too radically the opposite direction, being too serious. So it's like you got to find a sweet place in the middle. Will they get it right? I doubt it, but I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely interested, and we'll keep updates on this one.